waiting for. Just us to get our heads together. Now I say that as black people, we greet each other a zillion times a day. We're saying, hey, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Because we don't know what's going on. See, we keep running into a wall and wondering how come things haven't worked out. Because we have been deceived. We have been told we are in a democracy where everybody is equal. The truth and the reality is that we are in a system of racism, white supremacy. See, we're told that the system of democracy has imperfections. No, we are in a system of white supremacy that has been perfected. And that's why we keep staying basically in the same position. And as long as we don't understand we're dealing with a system, every week we just complain another black man has been shot, another black man has been killed. You say, oh, 10 over there, 3 over there. Oh, well, let's add up the statistics and somebody will run and complain about it. But if it's happening over and over again, that implies intentionality. And if the system is about white genetic survival, who is the enemy of the state? No, the black man. See, in a war, if you can take care of the business as defined, the problem is white genetic survival. So what do you have to knock out in order to not worry about white genetic survival? Exactly. The attack has to center on the black man. Now, years ago, in the 1970s, I was teaching at Howard University College of Medicine, and I would have Neely Fuller lecture every Monday night from 8 until 1 o'clock in the morning. And it would be students and people from the community. And Mr. Fuller used to talk about the system of racism, white supremacy, is going to have black men wearing dresses. And now this is 1970, about 72, 73, and that sounded so far out. Nobody, what's he talking about? What has recently happened at Morehouse College? The president of Morehouse College had to announce and lay down the law that the black male students, those who were so inclined, could not wear high-heel shoes, could not wear dresses and carry pocketbooks. Now this is 2010. That if the system, see, in other words, we have to keep system about white genetic survival. This is what the system is about. And the system is working 24/7. If I turn the black male into a female, can I relax about the fear of white genetic survival? Absolutely. Now, I don't know what goes on here in New York. Haven't been here in a while. In D.C., we have a lot of men with their pants laid him down. In the train station when I bought my ticket to come here, there's a black gentleman, had on some expensive clothes, had some nice luggage. His pants were down here. So he would pull the luggage like this after he got his ticket, and then he'd have to stop. Walk a few more steps.
Wow.
See, now, in other words, imagine somebody looking down from another galaxy or planet. You see, in other words, psychiatrists' behavior, all behavior has significance. You just have to understand the context and the power that is controlling it. Do you see what I'm saying? So, to understand what is happening, because what are we told? 70% of the households are without fathers. Read a book recently where a young black man is talking about having gotten into some difficulty doing a carjacking, carrying a gun at 16. And he said in the book, I had to go to prison to find my fathers. He said, fathers, he said, in prison was the first time he had an opportunity. Now, he didn't consciously put himself in that situation, but looking for fathers. I had a black male child say to me, you know, somebody brings a child to the psychiatrist because he's not studying or something. I had one child say to me who was about 10 or 11 years old, Dr. Welsing, I think I could do my homework if I just had an official father. Now that makes the psychiatrist want to fall under the desk and start crying. I had another child say, if I had a father, he could at least have taught me what goes on under the hood of a car. I had another child. All these children are brought into the psychiatrist because somebody says, teacher, principal, they're smart, but they won't do their homework. Or they won't study. This child came, and I said, sweetheart, don't you want to work hard in school? This was years ago. So you can help black people. And this little boy said, no. He wasn't being smart alecky, he wasn't being rude. And I said, you know, the psychiatrist wants to hear the child say yes. He said, no. And I said, why not? He said, if you try to help black people, you're going to be killed. Now this is a little black child, about 11 years old. Said Malcolm X, George Jackson. I said IQ 265. If you try to help black people, you are going to be killed. Was he right? That's like President Barack Obama has had more death threats than any president in the history of the United States. You see, because just that presence of a black man in the White House, like I think a lot of white people who initially voted for him wanted to appear liberal. You see, but once he's in that White House, and a black man with a black wife, and a black grandmother, that's the whole package. They begin to understand, oh my God, if he's in power, and not only that, the reception that he receives all over the non-white world. You see, so they started shaking because people who classify themselves as white are not consciously carrying around in their mind fear of white genetic annihilation. They repress that. You see, but how do we know? Based on other behaviors that they engage in, and just like Tom Metzger said, the majority of white people are fearful of their genetic annihilation. Sometimes white people will say to me, Dr. Welsing, what can I do to help? And I say, tell black people what white people talk about when there's no black people around. They all go silent. Because what are they talking about? They're either talking directly or in code about white genetic survival. I had a white college professor say to me after I had been invited to speak at a prison, white university giving educational programs in a prison, 100% of the prisoners black males. So I went and talked about the same thing I'm talking about here, about racism. So this white professor said to me, because she drove me out there, drove me back home. She said, see, sometimes when you push truth, and I'm not being rude and disrespectful, people feel compelled to come out with their truth. So she said, Dr. Welsing, you know, I hate to admit it, but on all social occasions, not some, not a few, on all social occasions when it's white people together and there's no black people around, she said, we are talking negatively about black people. And the assumption is that everybody present is in agreement. So I told her that I understood that. See, they're simply talking code. They're just talking code about their survival. They are not going to reveal it. They'll just say to us, isn't it nice that we're in a democracy? You see, but they are talking code about their survival. And at the same time that a black man is in the White House, there are millions of people locked up in prison. Millions, thousands of black men locked up in prison. You can say the incarceration of black genetic material. Now I say that the system 24/7 is talking about this critical problem in activity that you would not think is talking about white genetic survival. So one day, one Sunday, it was so quiet, I said, gee, what's happening? It was so quiet. See, when it's quiet, you can think.
Yes.
And this is why they say, now this is your music. Boom, de boom, de boom. See, all that loud music turns off the brain computer because of sensory overload. See, they use loud music, our loud music, to torture people in Guantanamo. To torture people, to make them go crazy. But they feed it to us and say, this is your music. This is what we want you to hear. But when it was quiet and I said, what's going on? And it came to me, ball games. And I said to myself, for ball games to have a whole city be quiet, the ball games must have a significance, an important significance that we're not generally focusing on. So it just pops. See, once you understand the context, meaning system of white supremacy or white genetic survival, this is the context in which everything, language, speech, activity takes place. So it just occurred to me, came into my computer, there are two series of ball games in the system of racism, white supremacy. If you read the ISIS papers, don't answer. What are the two series of ball games? See, you're looking at it all the time. But if you don't see the context, you won't see it. But you're looking at it. What are the two series of ball games? If you read the book, you're going to be expelled if you answer. The two series of ball games
Football, basketball.
in the system of racism, white supremacy are big brown and small white. No, you read the book.
No, that's what I did. I remember from me. I didn't figure that out myself.
Big brown and small white. Why so? Because once we're talking about genetic survival, then this is what automatically comes in the brain-computer subconscious. And this is not a man with glasses. Do I need to get a model to come and stand? See, why does this come into mind? Because this is a diagram of male genitalia. This is the phallus or the penis. These are the testicles. The testicles contain the genetic material. What are the testicles called, colloquially? Balls. Is that right, Clay? See, I don't make up stuff. I just observe. Balls. So out of the same brain computer that set up a system of white supremacy comes to, see, this doesn't come out of our brain computer. It didn't have to. So the